She had come into the desert to die. Magnolia Pierce pulled her blistered, bare feet through the searing sand, her body yielding to the heat with each step. The sun blistered her tattered dress, but she hardly noticed. Sorrow had rendered her numb many years before. This spot, away from town, away from sad looks, away from the crib that still smelled of her baby boy, was supposed to be where she'd spend eternity. The desert had already taken so many. Today she would join them. Nobody would miss her. Nobody would weep. But just as she was about to sink into the quietness forever, a noise cut through the wind. Crying. Tremulous, desperate, alive. 20 yards in front of her, beneath the parched shade of a dead mesquite tree, something moved. A mass of dirty rags twisting in the sand. Magnolia's heart, the one she'd assumed was dead with her baby 3 months before, jarred into tightness. She hurried toward it, fingers shaking. There, hidden in the rags, lay a baby. A child not even a few weeks old. Matted dark hair to her head, cracked and dry lips. Fevered skin, struggling for air. They'd left her out here to die, just like Magnolia had come to do the same. She cradled the baby in her arms, the small body seething with illness and light enough to be unreal. And yet, that fragile pulse awakened a deep part of her, something she'd thought long gone. Magnolia scanned the horizon. No shelter, no water, just sand and nothing. She'd arrived here with nothing. No canteen, no food, not even a purpose. But now she had one. The child had to be saved. And Magnolia, she couldn't leave. She rose slowly, all of her muscles crying out in agony. She could set the baby down and complete the killing she had intended, or she could struggle, with all that was left in her, to save them both. The sun rose higher, and time was slipping away. The baby whined in her arms, growing weaker now, disappearing. And in that instant, Magnolia understood. Another's desperation had just rewritten her destiny. But the desert wasn't done with them. With the infant clutched against her chest, Magnolia faced back in the direction of town. She had walked for hours before she came upon the child, and now the sun was a white-hot sear in the sky. Her skin cracked and blistered, her tongue dry and leathery. She hadn't eaten for days. Sorrow had drained her, and her body was betraying her at the worst moment. But she continued walking, perhaps due to the light weight of the baby in her arms, perhaps due to the recollection of her own dead child, perhaps because no one else was going to save this small life. The dunes spread out in all directions, a haze of sand and bone. All of it looked exactly the same. She couldn't recall the way home anymore. And then horse hooves, thunder on the sand. Magnolia turned and spotted 3 riders in the distance, galloping hard, fast. Hope flowered first. Help, water, salvation. But something was amiss. The men weren't coming to save. They were coming to claim. Faces covered with bandanas, eyes cold and hard. Predators. She tried to run, but the desert provided no shelter. The mesquite tree was well behind, and before her was only open terrain. The riders fanned out, encircling her like wolves. Their leader, a big man with scars and empty eyes, brought his horse to a halt in front of her. His eyes wandered to the bundle in her arms. He stepped down carefully, fingers on the handle of his gun. Magnolia took a step backward, holding the baby close to her, her heart racing. The rest of them circled her, cutting off her escape. The baby moved weakly in her arms, too weak even to cry. The man advanced, his voice parched and raspy like dry rock. "Well, well," he said. "What do we have here? A woman and a baby by themselves." "Please," Magnolia pleaded, voice little more than a whisper. "She's dying. She needs water." The man laughed, crisp and rough. "Dying, huh? Too bad." He leaned close, the breath dripping in whiskey stench. "What's a woman like you doing out here with someone else's kid?" One of the others, younger and fidgety, moved uncomfortably. "Boss, maybe we should—" "Shut up, Tommy," the leader barked. His cold stare returned to Magnolia. "See, we've been tracking someone. A woman who took something very valuable from our employer. Someone who looks a lot like you. Magnolia's mind raced. She didn't know these men, but they thought she was someone else, someone worth hunting across the desert. I found her abandoned, Magnolia said, backing slowly. I'm trying to save her. The man's hand dropped to his holster. That's sweet. But this is the thing. Our boss's wife and newborn daughter are both missing. Looks like a pretty big coincidence to me. Don't you agree? As if shards of glass had fit together inside of her, the reality struck her. The baby in her arms hadn't been left behind. She'd been taken. Someone had taken the baby and left her to perish. And Magnolia was taking the fall for it. I'm not who you think I am, she told them, shaking. I came here to... She was unable to get the words out. How could she tell them she'd come here to die? That rescuing this baby had saved her in return? Tommy leaned forward again, speaking more gently. Boss, take a look at her. She's half dead herself. And the baby? She needs help. But the leader didn't care. His eyes had turned hard. Where's the money? He snapped. The wife stole a fortune when she split. Magnolia's breath caught. They were convinced. And they were out of patience. The baby's innocent, she exclaimed frantically. She needs help. Whatever went down beforehand, she knows nothing about it. The leader pulled his gun, sunlight flashing off the steel. Then you won't mind if we search you. He took a step forward and then everything changed. A bullet tore across the desert. The leader turned as a bullet hit the ground close to his horse. All three men drew their guns, looking about. And then, around a rocky outcropping, a woman came into sight. She stood steady with a rifle in her hands, wind blowing through her matted dark hair. Her dress was elegant once, but now filthy and torn. Step away from her, she called, voice firm. The men froze. That's my daughter she's holding. The leader grinned. Well, Rosalie Thorne. We've been searching high and low for you. So this was the real kidnapper. The woman who had taken the baby and left her to die in the sand. But why was she now aiming a gun at her husband's men? Rosalie didn't flinch. She moved forward, rifle never wavering. I told you, back away from her. My daughter is in trouble. Your daughter? The leader sneered, his laughter as dry and bitter as the dust. You mean the daughter you took from her father? The one you abandoned to die in the desert when you stole his gold and ran off with it? Rosalie's voice broke beneath the burden of her truth. I didn't steal her. She's my baby. And I didn't leave her to die. I hid her. Magnolia gazed down at the lifeless bundle in her arms. The baby's breathing became so weak that she leaned her ear against the mouth of the child, listening for any movement, any indication she was still alive. Whatever transpired between these individuals, the child didn't have long. Have her water, Magnolia shouted to Rosalie, her tone firm with alarm. Now or she'll die. Rosalie's toughened stance wavered as her gaze landed on her daughter. Tears streamed down her grimy face. Is she alive? She quivered, asking the question. Barely, Magnolia answered. But we can still save her, if only we end this madness and assist her. The leader brought his gun to bear, pointing it at Rosalie. No more words. Where's the money? He snarled. Mr. Thorne wants his property returned. All of it. Property. Rosalie's voice hardened to steel. She brought the rifle up higher. That baby isn't property. And neither am I. Her hands steadied as her tale poured out. My husband sold me like cattle to settle his gambling debts. And he said when she was grown, he'd sell our daughter too. I grabbed what gold I could carry, and I fled. Suddenly the puzzle fit together. This wasn't a kidnapping. This was a mother's desperate last stand. A frantic bid to rescue her child from being sold as cattle. Something had gone wrong. She had stashed away the baby, attempted to double back, but never got here in time. Tommy, the younger rider, hesitated and dropped his gun. Boss, perhaps we ought to. I told you to shut up, the leader snapped. But his voice was less sharp. Magnolia's arms throbbed. The baby's breath was a sigh. Please, she begged. I don't care about gold or betrayal or who owes what. This baby is innocent. She's dying as we fight like idiots. Rosalie's voice broke as she finally confessed the truth. I left her by the side of the tree with water and food. I was to return after I distracted them. But they ambushed me too quickly. I was lost trying to cut back around. I've been looking for her for 2 days. Nevertheless, the leader did not flinch. His gun never left its target. Touching story, he said icily. But Mr. Thorne still desires his wife, his child, and his gold. And now the moment teetered, looming and brittle. If you were Magnolia, what would you do? Flee with a child who's dying and pray to escape the bullets? Or stand among them all and make these individuals confront what was most important?
Magnolia chose.
She walked right into the line of fire, holding the baby aloft for all to see. Look at her, she screamed. Look at this child. The baby's lips were blue. Her skin was paper-thin and radiating heat. Her tiny chest rose and fell with hardly a breath. This is some father's daughter. She's dying. I don't care about your gold or your corals. If we don't get her out of here now, she'll be dead by sundown. For a moment, the wind was the sole reaction. Then Tommy shifted. He stashed his gun, straddled the sand, and drew out a water canteen from his saddlebag. She's right, he said calmly. Whatever else is at stake, we can't let a baby die. Ride on that horse, boy, the leader spat, swinging his gun in his direction. But Tommy didn't blink. No, sir. I came to follow a thief, not to witness a child dehydrate to death. He passed the flask to Magnolia. Small amounts. Give her too much and she'll become ill. Magnolia's fingers shook as she placed the flask against the baby's parched lips. A few drops trickled into her mouth. The baby moved. It was the first sign of life Magnolia had witnessed in more than an hour. Rosalie eased her rifle down a fraction. Will she be all right? I don't know, Magnolia confessed. She needs more than water. She needs actual care, food, shade, and a location that isn't in the middle of this hell. The leader's hold on his gun didn't waver, but his confidence was visibly shaken. Even he could tell the baby was dying fast. Fine, he said. We'll take the child back to town. But Rosalie's coming with us. Mr. Thorne wants his wife returned. No, Rosalie said, her voice ironclad. I will not go back to that man. He will sell her the moment he can, just like he tried to sell me. That's not your choice, the leader snapped. You're still legally his wife. Tommy moved next to Magnolia, assisting her in feeding the child another sip of water. Boss, he said softly, what if there is another option? What if we take the baby, but leave the woman behind? But the leader shook his head. Mr. Thorne demands both of them. Rosalie raised her rifle once more, her glare burning. Then Mr. Thorne's going to be disappointed. I'd rather die out here than ever return. The baby coughed. A faint, raspy cough, but then opened her eyes, dark, small, and believing. That one look burst something open in Magnolia's chest. This child wanted more than to survive. She wanted someone who would fight for her. There's another way, Magnolia said gently. Everyone's head turned. What if the baby follows me? The silence that ensued was oppressive. Once hard and cruel, the leader laughed. You're nobody. You were half dead yourself when we found you. Perhaps, said Magnolia. She straightened to her full height, speaking clearly. But I'm someone who would die before allowing harm to come to her. And right now, that's more than any of you can say. The standoff began to shift, because suddenly the child wasn't just being carried. She was being taken. But the leader wasn't done. Not yet. You want the truth? He said, his eyes glinting with venom. Tell them, Rosalie. Tell them what you really did. Rosalie's face went white. Her rifle trembled, but she didn't drop it. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? He spat. Then perhaps you forgot about the other baby. The one that you left to die. The words struck like a thunderclap. Magnolia's legs almost buckled, but she held the baby closer. What is he saying? The leader smiled, enjoying the moment. Mr. Thorne had twins. 2 daughters. This one. He gestured toward the baby in Magnolia's arms. And her sister. He faced Rosalie. But when she fled, she could only take one. That's not true, Rosalie whispered, but her voice betrayed her. Tell them, Rosalie, the leader urged. Tell them what happened to the house. What you did to the other child. Rosalie's hands were trembling. I couldn't hold them both. The house was burning when I arrived. One of Thorne's creditors set it on fire to make a point. I took who I could. I tried to go back. Her voice broke into tears. She let the rifle fall and knelt down. I tried, but the fire spread too quickly. I could hear men yelling out there. If I had remained, we would have all perished. Magnolia stared down at the child in her arms. A survivor, but one who survived only by taking her sister's life. The burden of that sacrifice descended on her like a storm. The leader's voice cut through the wind. Mr. Thorne desires justice. He desires his wife punished. He desires the child returned. Magnolia's voice was a mere whisper. What kind of justice is punishing a baby for her mother's impossible decision? But in her heart, she knew this wasn't about justice. Not exactly. It was about control, possession, and revenge. And the fight for this child's future had just begun. Rosalie had made a decision no mother should ever have to make, and the guilt was consuming her from the inside out. She sat on the sand, shattered, hollowed out by loss. Magnolia could see it. She wouldn't struggle much longer. But in Magnolia's own arms, the baby moved. Soft noises came out of her tiny mouth as the water gained strength, bringing life back to that small body. Innocent eyes opened once more, blind to the fact they were born of tragedy, blind to the fact that everyone around her was struggling not only for her survival, but for her soul. Tommy knelt alongside Rosalie, picking up the rifle she'd dropped. "Boss," he said softly, "perhaps we should consider this carefully. This woman's already been put through hell." The voice of the leader cracked like a whip. "What about Mr. Thorne? What about the other daughter? The one who burned to death screaming in that fire?" The heat of the desert pressed in on them, but the air between them was cold. Magnolia saw it now. This was not justice. This was revenge. This was not about getting back what was stolen. It was about someone wanting someone to blame. She looked at Rosalie, weeping in the sand. Then at the baby, now alert and blinking up at her like the world was still worth trusting. Magnolia drew a breath and made a decision. "Take me instead," she said. Silence. Every eye turned to her. "Take me back to Thorne," Magnolia said again, firmer. "Tell him I'm the one who took the child. Let Rosalie vanish. She's paid enough." But she had not been counting on the ugly reality that offer would uncover. The leader's laugh was cold, without humor. "You think Thorne wants his daughter back because he loves her? You think this is about justice?" Tommy's brow twisted. "Boss, what are you saying?" The leader turned to Rosalie. "Tell them. Go on, Rosalie. Tell them about the buyer."
"No," Rosalie whispered. "There's returning."
"Please, don't." A shiver ran up Magnolia's spine. "What purchaser?" The leader slowly holstered his gun, as if relishing the moment. "Thorne has obligations. Heady obligations. The type of men who don't knock twice. But he came up with a plan. A man back east with more dollars than morals. A man who offers top dollar for young purchases."
Magnolia's gut roilet.
"He's selling her," she breathed. "Not selling," the leader corrected smugly. "Setting up a private adoption. Very exclusive. Very lucrative. The client desired a baby girl. Thorne gets to pay off his debts and walk away a rich man." Tommy let the reins slide.
"No."
"No, boss. That ain't right. A man doesn't sell his own child. A desperate man does what he has to," the leader said. Rosalie pushed herself up, her tear-stained face smeared with dirt. "That's why I fled. I overheard him making arrangements, selling them like cattle. I had to take them out of there." Magnolia gazed down. The baby blinked up at her, unaware that her life was now a commodity. "And now you want to return her to that?" The leader shrugged. Not my place to judge. I just bring back what's due. She's not property, Magnolia said, her voice as hard as flint. Technically, she is. She's her father's property. And her father's coming to reclaim her. He spun to Tommy. Round up the rope. We're taking the three of them. But Tommy stood paralyzed. No, he said quietly. I won't do this. I won't assist in selling a child. You'll do what you're told or return to town by yourself, the leader snarled. Then I guess I'm walking. The leader had his gun out. Tension split the air. Rosalie was shattered. Tommy was obstinate. Magnolia stood between all of them, clutching the baby everybody desired for a different purpose. And in that seething quiet, Magnolia realized. Nobody had posed the one question that counted. What was best for the baby? She stood upright, wind blowing across her skirt, holding the baby with a mother's instinct. You're not moving this child anywhere. The leader pointed his gun. Lady, you have no bargaining position. Perhaps not, she replied calmly. But I have a choice to make. And I choose the life of this child over all your goddamn schemes. She turned to them all. Rosalie, you made the impossible decision. You saved one child, and that was stronger than most have. That's courage, not shame. Rosalie's eyes locked onto hers, shining with tears of gratitude. Tommy, you fought for what was right, no matter the cost. That's what a true man does. He stood taller, determination setting in his chest. Then she faced the leader. And you lost your soul pursuing orders. You forgot this baby is a person, not a payment. Enough, the leader barked. Release the child.
No.
The word resonated across the desert like a gunshot. She backed away, protecting the baby. I came to die, she said. I lost my own child 3 months ago. I didn't have anything left to live for, until I found her. She saved me, and now, I'm going to save her. The leader lifted his weapon. But before he could shoot, Tommy took him down to the ground. The gun flew out of his hand as they rolled across the dirt. Rosalie grabbed her rifle. Run! She screamed at Magnolia. Grab her and run. But Magnolia didn't run. She walked silently to where the gun had fallen. She picked it up. It was alien in her hand, but firm. The leader struggled to his feet, where he found himself facing the barrel. Here's how this ends, Magnolia said. Rosalie's going to take a horse and vanish into the desert. You're going to let her, or I'll leave your body here for the buzzards. You won't shoot me, he said. I've got nothing left to lose. Tommy stood, dusting off his clothes.
Mom.
What about the baby? Magnolia looked down at the small girl, fully awake now. Those trusting eyes watched her without fear. She's coming with me. I'll raise her. I'll give her a name, a home, a life. You can't just steal someone's child, the leader said, but his voice had lost its edge. I'm not stealing her. I'm saving her. From a man who would sell his own daughter. From men like you. The infant let out a soft noise. A coo. Almost. Magnolia smiled. For the first time in months, she felt it. Hope. Rosalie mounted up, her eyes red with crying. Thank you, she breathed. Love her for both of us. And rode off into the desert and out of their lives. The leader stood, defeated. He knew the battle was lost. Tommy assisted him to his feet, and they rode off in silence. This isn't over, the leader said. Magnolia didn't blink. Yes, it is, because I said so. The sun had started setting, coloring the sky in fire and gold. Magnolia alone was left in the stillness, holding the child who had turned her world around. She gazed down at the baby. Well, little one, she whispered, I suppose we should name you. How about Hope? Magnolia whispered. Because that's what you gave me, when I thought I had none left. The baby cooed in her arms, as if in agreement. Magnolia Pierce emerged from that desert a changed woman from the one who had entered it. She had entered the heat with nothing. No water, no intention, no desire to live. But she emerged bearing a child, and with him a purpose to continue living. She brought up the little girl as her own, calling her Hope. And as was becoming her habit, the child flourished in the safety of nothing but love, protection, and stillness. They ended up far from the desert, in a town where no one cared about asking questions about a woman with a baby who wasn't hers by birth. Because for all it took, she was hers. Years went by, and when Hope was old enough to learn, Magnolia sat her down and explained it all. The desert truth, the truth about Rosalie, the fire, the sister she never did know. Hope cried, not only for the twin she had lost to fire, but for the mother who had given up everything in order to save her. But in that grief, she also learned something Magnolia had always known at heart. Family doesn't always happen through blood. Sometimes it happens by choice, and by love. As for Rosalie, she disappeared into the horizon and was never heard from again. Some said she'd begun anew in a peaceful border town. Others said the desert claimed her. But Magnolia preferred to think that, somewhere out there, Rosalie recovered the piece of herself that had been taken from her, and found peace at last. And Mr. Thorne? The desert pays its own debts, and some men never run far enough from what they've done. So now, if you were touched by this story, if you're still wondering about that decision in the sand and the baby called Hope, click the video on your screen. There's another story waiting for you, and the surprise in that one just may leave you breathless. Go ahead, click now.